this is what it's going to take, folks, to win over young people's vote, because that is where we're bleeding right now. We're going to have a lot of work to do with letting people understand that while they may be physically voting for Biden, what they're doing is voting their interest. But I want you to listen to this little piece from Kornacki and a few others, and then we will take it on the other side.
Let's break down the numbers on the polling with NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki.
All right, yeah, interesting new poll here from the New York Times and Siena. Interesting because they've done something the other pollsters haven't yet done. You're going to hear a lot about this, though, in the next few months. So it's a matchup between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, if Trump does end up being the Republican nominee. And they polled it this way. This we see commonly right now. Registered voters, broad pool. Everybody who's registered to vote could be part of this poll. And they have Trump leading by 2 points with registered voters. And that's consistent with a lot of polls we've seen recently. A close race, a Trump lead of a few points in many polls. Those polls you've been seeing generally are testing registered voters. What the Times also did here, and what other pollsters will start to do as we get into 2024 and get closer to the election, is likely voters. Not just registered voters, but voters who are likely to turn out among those registered voters. It's a little narrower pool, and here you see they find Joe Biden with a 2-point lead. So it's Trump with registered voters, a bigger pool, and Biden 2 points up with likely voters. And a big part of this is the registered voter advantage for Trump may be, it's it's younger voters. In some cases, it's non-white voters. Trump's doing better among them, among registered voters who it's not clear if they're actually going to show up and vote in 2024. So I think that's a question here that we have heading into 2024. We'll probably be talking about all year. There's signs that Trump has made some inroads with some constituencies that haven't been friendly to him in the past, but it's also not clear those folks are going to turn out and actually vote for him. And you can see the potential difference there in terms of who does show up in this election. So that's a big question we'll be looking at. And again, the other thing here in this poll that's interesting, and we've seen this in some other polls, is a dynamic in 2020 that's been flipped: age. So start here at the youngest end of things here. In this Times poll, they've got Biden ahead in the youngest group, 18 to 29, by 3 points. The margin for Biden over Trump in 2020 was 24 points. So this is what we're talking about, Trump making inroads with younger voters. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Trump in 2020 against Biden actually won the oldest voters, 65 plus, by 4 points. Now Biden leading in this poll by 11 among older voters. So again, this is something we've seen in other polls. It's an interesting shift. Trump making inroads on the young end, Biden making inroads on the older end. And we'll see if that dynamic holds. A lot of discussion there, too, I think, about what's driving that. Yasmin.
Steve Kornacki, thank you. Appreciate it. I want to bring in Director of Polling at the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics, John Della Volpe, to talk more about this. Some really fascinating stuff there that I want to dig into, John, if we can. A lot of flip-flopping going on there, right? You have Biden gaining with older voters. You have Trump gaining with younger voters, some registered, some likely voters as well. You actually did your own polling between, I believe it was October 22nd and November 6th. Some of your findings were similar. That was 3 weeks or so into the Israel-Hamas war. Then, though, you found Joe Biden at 41%, Donald Trump at 30%. What I thought was fascinating, though, John, was that 15% of those that you polled said they would not vote if the matchup was between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Talk us through that.
That's right. I think the bad news around that is, yes, relative to where we were 4 years ago, there was less enthusiasm about voting generally. That's not a good thing. The good news is, in less than a year, 10 plus months or so, we know what we need to do to turn that around in terms of talking about civics and the importance of three things to young people. First of all, democracy can and has worked, one. Second is government can do big things. And I think there's a lot more of the Biden track record over the last several years that has not been communicated to a place where younger people understand the over $100 billion in student debt relief, as an example, the most significant investment in climate, et cetera, could go on. And the third thing is there is a distinct difference between the two parties. Those are the three elements that I think, Yasmin, need to be in the consciousness of younger people to even have a conversation about them voting at the levels at which they voted the last several election cycles.
Now, let me tell you something, folks. If you look at that poll, it's just really scared the bejesus out of Trump, actually, because Biden really flipped old people to Biden. And the ones that flipped a bunch to Trump are not the steadies. They're pissed off at Biden right now because of Israel, justifiably. But when they, as Bonaparte or whatever his name is, I can't remember his name correctly, as he said, we know what we have to do to talk to those teenagers, talk to those young people. We know what we have to do. And part of that message is, look, you know what Biden did is absolutely wrong, but here's what he's going to do that will be absolutely right going forward that Donald Trump isn't. And while he'll hold on, that Biden is likely to hold on to the older folk, Trump cannot hold on to the young people who currently claim they're going to vote for him. So when I saw that poll, I was actually much more positive, even though the polls have been kind of messed up all around. I was more positive that we won't get that criminal in chief as the next president again.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.